Hey everybody, and welcome to DeeVine DeeZine. I am very excited that each of you have tuned in and joined with me today because I have a very exciting collaboration series that I will be hosting for you guys over the next 3 months. That's right. All summer long, we will be bringing you some video clips from several channels here on YouTube in order to help you overcome maybe some issues that have been holding you back just a little bit. If you want to learn more about what's happening, just stay tuned. A couple of months ago, I decided that I wanted to join with some other YouTubers here on YouTube to bring you guys a series from a woman's perspective and to really just kind of speak into your life a little bit, some hope and encouragement that you too can be all that you were created to be. So I set out to reach out to a few YouTubers, some of whom I know quite well and others I don't yet know very well at all. Some of these channels I have had the pleasure of following quite a while and have seen many of their videos and found them to be extraordinary women. And a few of the other channels I haven't gotten to see very many of their videos yet and haven't learned too much about them, but from what I have seen seem to be on the same trek as what I am looking for all of you guys. I'm going to go ahead real quick and read you the list of everyone who will be participating. Again, this will be over the entire summer, so be watching for all of these videos. The lovely ladies who will be joining me on this collaboration is Suzanne Light, Shantae Vega, Danny Jackson, Style My Curves Kira, The Lioness Lane, Cha-Cha Cakes, Coupon to Provide, Ashley Hobbs, No Guts No Glory, Phone Jones, and Jody Saladino. Many of you will know a lot of these channels already, and some of you may be unfamiliar with them, and they may be as new to you as they are to me. So we will just get to know all of them together. How about that? What I set out to do was I wanted to ask them to join in with me in sharing their personal stories. So what you may hear in these videos over the next few months will be very personal. Some of it might even be a little bit painful for some of us to relive as we answer the questions and share our stories with you. But our hope and the end goal is that we can show you guys that if you too have ever suffered with self-esteem issues or feeling like you were incapable to accomplish much with your life, hopefully after this summer is over, you are going to feel empowered and energized to get out there and do something great with your life, because I believe that each and every one of you was born with a great purpose and that God has a beautiful destiny that He is waiting for you to fulfill. And unfortunately, many times we fail to fulfill our destiny because we are held back by things such as rejection issues, bullying in our lives, just simple self-esteem issues where we don't feel capable for one reason or another, and we want to help you guys overcome that. What we're going to do is answer a series of questions each month, and on the final video, which will be posted for you guys July the 15th, we are going to finally let you guys know exactly how we were able to overcome some of our setbacks and step on out into a more confident lifestyle. So you're going to want to be sure that you tune in for all 3 videos so that you can get to the conclusion to find out how you too might be able to overcome. This month for May, I do have 3 questions that I have sent everyone for them to answer, and hopefully all of us can answer these questions for you without going in too much detail, maybe to give away some answers that are going to be coming up in June. We're going to kind of leave you hanging a little bit, so you guys are going to want to make sure that you come back in June to hear the continuation of our stories. number one that we will be answering for you this month is, have you ever struggled with self-esteem issues or loving yourself for who you really are? And if so, when did the struggle begin for you? That is a very interesting question. And I think it's one that we all have to pause and really take a look at and say, wow, have I really ever at any time struggled with loving myself? And if so, what did trigger that? Because usually there is some kind of trigger. For me, it goes way back, and I'm going to include a link for you down at the bottom. As a matter of fact, you may have already seen that pop across your screen. The video that I produced for you guys about a year ago was called What Being a Beauty Queen Taught Me. And in that video, I go into my story quite a bit about how I was picked on whenever I was younger, how we moved around a lot whenever I was young. And any of you that's ever had to move a lot know how hard that can be for preteens and especially teenagers. It is extremely tough, and it does begin to play on your self-esteem in a lot of ways, because every time you have to go into a new environment, trying to make new friends and hopefully present yourself in a way that's going to be accepted in the new environment where you are, you face the possibility of rejection. And for many of us, myself included, rejection was a huge part of my adolescence growing up because of that factor. I also tell the story in there a little bit about some teeth issues that I had, and I don't really want to rehash all of that again because I do have a whole video on that. So I'm going to link that for you to click over there and watch that story. But to answer the question, yes, I absolutely have struggled with loving myself. I have struggled with the fact of people pointing out the negatives about my personality instead of rejoicing in the strengths of the personality. You know, the things that you can do wrong and the bad choices that you make sometimes are more highlighted in your life than the good choices that you make. And when those things are consistently pointed out to you by friends or family or whoever it may be, even your enemies can find out about some of your failures and keep throwing them at you, it definitely plays on your self-esteem, because after a while of hearing so much negative, even if it's just from the voice inside, you know, even if it's just because you already struggle with how you feel about yourself, hearing even that internal voice can definitely demobilize and debilitate you to make you where when you look in the mirror, you just absolutely hate the person you are, and it becomes very difficult to figure out any good about yourself. The second part of that question was, when did this struggle begin for you? I'm not really sure, because to be honest with you, low self-esteem was something that I always remember struggling with. I know my mom tells the story of whenever I was super young, even as young as 5 years old, I was pretty independent. Would tell her, you know, I'm going to walk up to the corner store, and she would tell me, okay, go ahead, you can make it, and then follow me behind in the car to make sure I was safe. But she talks about how I was very independent as a young child. But as far back as my memories can go, I have always struggled with self-esteem issues and accepting myself for who I was. I don't know really what triggered that, what may have changed, except for, like I said, the first time that I can remember us making a big move was whenever I was just about 6 years old. And I remember that move quite well. We were in a new environment, a new location, and along with that came different people in different situations and circumstances. My dad had gone off to Bible school. We didn't have a lot of money. There were 2 of us kids already when Dad decided to head off to Lakeland to attend Southeastern University. And when we got there, we had another family who had given us a bunch of hand-me-down clothes. If you're like me, whenever I was growing up, I wore a lot of hand-me-downs, and they were always nice. The clothes looked nice, and it wasn't like you just felt tattered and torn, but I guess there was something that, you know, whenever you're small and people kind of pick on that you have to be in hand-me-downs and all that kind of stuff, it kind of plays on your mind a little bit. Well, in the mix of all these clothes that were given to us was this huge, furry, fuzzy yellow jacket, and it had a hood on it, and it was one of those that was real long that it came down past my knees, just a really big long kind of trench coat type thing. I so wished I had a picture to show you guys, but I think every picture that ever existed has been totally demolished, because when I would put that jacket on and wear it to school, I earned the name Big Bird, because that's exactly what I looked like with that hood on, walking around in that big fuzzy yellow jacket. That is probably one of the earliest memories that I have of being seriously picked on in school. And I don't know, that could be what the triggering point was for me. I was in a new environment, first of all, trying to make friends with, you know, people already have their little cliques and their little friends when they're little. So that was challenging enough. But then you add on to the fact that I was wearing a garment of clothing that was a hand-me-down that was hideous and getting picked on by so many of my classmates. That is really the thing that I think stands out to me the most, and probably triggered some of the self-esteem issues that I would later face. Question number 2. Do you remember a specific event or specific person that triggered the esteem issue, or was your lack of confidence the normal struggle that all kids go through when they hit puberty? I kind of just answered that question. I think the Big Bird incident is probably what triggered that. So when you start to have a lack of confidence, or you fear being picked on when you go to school and those kind of things, then I think that as you begin to hit the puberty stage and that adolescent stage, you're bringing those feelings and emotions with you. So now when your hormones get ready to go all crazy and you start to have the normal esteem issues that everybody faces, no matter how solid their background may have been, they kind of combine together and they create this enormous thing in your mind that seems insurmountable. It really can. And for me, that's kind of just how it was. I think that I was already feeling so bad about myself by the time I hit high school. I can remember later on in elementary school, 4th and 5th grade, I started being picked on because of my teeth issues, which I cover in the other video. I was always picked on because of my physique. I was well developed for my age, and so that brought with it some embarrassment, I guess you would say, because the boys definitely took notice of that whenever I hit about 5th or 6th grade. But yet, along with the early development in the right areas, there were other areas that weren't as developed, and I was picked on in that as well. So naturally then, whenever all the pubescent hormones kick in and you're hearing all these things, remembering all the times you were picked on, by this time I was yet in another new city having to deal with that as well, that yeah, I think that it just kind of combined all together and just snowballed into one huge obstacle that I really didn't know that I would ever be able to step outside of, and didn't know if I ever would be able to find anything positive about myself or not. Question number 3. Did you ever get called names that exacerbated your feelings of insecurity? Did you encounter bullies? If so, how did you cope with this in a positive way or a negative way? That's kind of a loaded question. There's a lot there, my goodness. Did I get called names? Yes, and I've already told you at least one of those. I was called Big Birds. I was called Flat Butt. Let's just be honest. That's one of the things that I was called. My name is Dina Hartley, or it was whenever I was younger. So one of the nicknames that was called to me all the time was Hyena Fartley, and I can remember I hated that. I just absolutely hated it. Don't even know where it came from. I guess because elementary kids sit around and they just think of words that rhyme with other words, and that became part of it. But it was like incessantly thrown at me. And when you're already dealing with other issues, it doesn't feel very playful or just fun. It feels like an attack of sorts, if that makes sense. There were all other kind of names. I was called Snotty, Miss Goody Two Shoes, Little Miss Priss was a big one. I was called that a lot growing up, and I always hated it because names like that made me feel like I thought I was too good for everybody else, and never did I ever feel that I was too good for other people. And so those kind of names probably even hurt me worse than the other names did. Did I ever encounter bullies? I did encounter bullies a couple of times, but I gotta tell you the secret to that. I learned real quick in middle school to make friends with the bullies. And so I became friends. There's one girl that just sticks right out in my mind. She was very much a bully. She was kind of big and strong, and everybody was afraid of her. Well, I knew right away, I was smart enough to figure out that I need to become friends with her, because if I can become friends with her, she will take up for me, and then everybody else is going to be too scared to pick on me because they're going to be scared of her. And it actually worked quite well. The thing is, I wasn't just using her. I really did genuinely like her, and our friendship was a serious friendship that blossomed into something quite nice. So did I encounter bullies? I did, but I also learned, on the other hand, how to become friends with them, to get on their good side, to protect myself and go into self-preservation mode. So it wasn't too bad, not like what a lot of other people face. That is a blessing. If so, how did you cope with this? I just explained you that one. Was it a positive or negative way? I think it was actually a very positive way to kind of handle that situation. Yes, life can be tough, and I do believe that most of it starts when you're young. At least for me, it did. And that was the questions behind this week. In week number 1 was, how early did you remember beginning to struggle with esteem issues? Was it caused by a person? Was it caused by a specific event? For some of you, maybe it started at home. Maybe for some of you didn't have a very good home life, and there was a lot of things that were happening behind the scenes at home that kind of tackled your self-esteem and set you in motion to a life of failure. And we're going to cover some of that in next month's video, so I really want you guys to stay tuned. My hopes for week number 1 was, I wanted you to see that there are a lot of people that some of you look at every week as we upload our videos through YouTube, and you see us in our confidence now that we have gotten older and learned how to overcome these things. And some of you probably think, wow, you know, they've never struggled with anything and they have a perfect life and everything is just all together. And I want you to know that's not always true. Some of us have struggled a lot in our life. Some of us have gone through a lot of obstacles, and we have learned how to overcome. And if we can do that, then every single one of you can certainly do it as well. I want you to know that the faces that you see on YouTube have gone through hard times, have gone through being picked on, through name callings, maybe facing those bullies. Whatever the stories are going to turn out to be in this first collaboration video, we have learned to step outside of that, but we can also relate to you right where you are. We can empathize with you. We have sympathy for you in some of the things that maybe you are facing, because I believe that there's probably a lot of you that are still locked in a mental bondage for some of these things that you faced when you were young, and inside you are desperately crying out for help to be able to break free from that. And that is my goal. So by the end of the summer, after you have watched all 3 months worth of videos from the ladies, then it is my hope that you will feel empowered and emboldened, and that you can take a step to do something great that you never thought would be possible for you. Once again, I want to remind you that there are about, I believe it was 14, possibly 15 channels that are involved in this. I don't want to call them out without reading the list, because surely I will forget somebody. But all of the channels will be linked for you down below. Take a few minutes to stop on over to hear their stories and find out what happened to them when they were kids. Were they picked on? Did they face bullies? Were there events in their life that kind of spiraled them into a life of self-esteem issues? I'm as anxious as as all of you are to hear these stories. So definitely be sure that you stop on over and check them out. And be sure that you tune in next month as we continue our stories as well. I want to thank each and every one of you so very much for stopping by. I will see you in the next video.